Welcome to this week's segment of St. Mary's Talks About Race. This week we're going to look at the issue of diversity. Diversity, first of all, has many meanings. If someone asked you if your church or workplace was diverse, one person might think you're referring to age, another person might think you're referring to physical ability, and another person might even think you're simply talking about economic. Then there is, of course, the racial diversity. Race, this socially constructed concept that was conjured and created simply for the oppression of a group of people, is something that we tend to think is an easy thing to fix. It has been embedded into our society for over 300 years. And we can't even begin to eradicate this concept of racism, one, unless we talk about it, and two, certainly not by having a 6-hour training. It is long. Racism is deep and racism is wide. This issue of diversity and racism in particular is something that is a journey that has to be taken on every day of our lives. We're going to hear from our speaker today to talk about this concept of what it really means to be diverse and how diversity really isn't enough, and what it is when we say we need diversity, what it is that what we're really asking for, and what it is that we really need. So I hope you enjoy the snippets of video that we have for you today. And if you have some comments, make it. And we'll talk about that on next week's St. Mary's Chester Talks About Race.
Diversity. Just stop. So I want to convince you to stop talking about diversity. So let me explain. Those of you who are like, what? Hold up. Let me explain. So we know that about 99.9-ish% of us have some level of ethnocentrism or some other kind of unconscious prejudice towards people who are different than us. So that's like all of us here in this room. Before you start getting defensive on me and you're just like, I know it's not me, hold up. It is you. And it's you. But hold up. No judgment, because these unconscious biases, they make sense in that they're in our old limbic brain. And this part of the brain evolved back in cave people days. But now we have a very modern world. We interact with people all the time who act different than us, look different than us. That's normal. But our limbic brain is still catching up. It's still wired to equate outsiders with a threat to our own survival. Well, it matters because it means that our brains categorize equity as a core need. And when any core need is threatened, our brains and our bodies are wired to go into a stress state. And if this continues, now we've got chronic stress, and chronic stress leads to inflammation. We are finding that people who experience recurring racism indeed show chronic inflammation in their bodies. In chronic inflammation, as we're learning, it's no joke. It is directly linked to things like cancer, heart disease, general lower life expectancy, i.e., it's linked with early death. So equity isn't just politics here. Equity, it's critical to our health. Thank you. Right. So about a year ago, there I was being an equity, inclusion, and diversity trainer, and it dawned on me, why are we talking about diversity at all? Diversity isn't what our brains need. It's really just a metric to understand if equity is happening. So let me explain. Let's say that at your company, 4% of the employees at your company are people of color, but 30% of the US population is people of color. So if this happens again and again, year after year at your company, that racial diversity number, it's an early indicator that it's likely that there's inequity happening somewhere in your hiring pipeline. But let's say that you change how you hire, and you hire a bunch of people of color, and you get it to 30% of your employees are people of color. What? We're done, right? Can we celebrate? Can we celebrate? I love that you're not being like, yeah, we're done. You know, something's weird here. Because this new racial diversity number still doesn't paint the full equity picture. It doesn't tell us if those employees are being compensated equitably to their white counterparts. It doesn't tell us about how they're being treated by their white peers in everyday work lives. And yet we're still, knowing this, diversity isn't the core need. Equity's the core need. Why do we talk so much more about diversity? I think we talk more about diversity because it's safer. When we say, we are committed to diversity at our company, it doesn't imply anything but a wish to invite more people into our company, more minorities. And inviting people, it's not that hard. I mean, it isn't, right? Because I can do it right now. I want to invite all of you, I see you up there, middle, all of you here are invited to my house. Let's say tomorrow. How's that sound? 5 o'clock sound okay? Cool. House, party, diversity, checked off, done. We know, right? We're like, right, who we invite into our companies, onto our teams, into our neighborhoods, it is a step. But it says nothing about how we'll treat them once they arrive.
Indeed, from colonization, the slave trade, and immigration, to be born in America is to be born into diversity. What we really need is equity. How to treat people the way we would want to be treated. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week on St. Mary's Chester Talks About Race.